Okay, a couple more things. I want to put some labels here so that you have an idea of what's where. So this interface right here, this serial interface, I want to put the number here so it's easy to see in the video. 200.10.0.1, okay, and then this one over here will be 200.10.0.2. All right, and those in fact are the addresses. I'm just double checking. All right, perfect. Okay, and now to make this situation work so that these PCs can ping or communicate all the way over to the server, what we need to do is set up some static routes, a default route on these routers. So I'm going to set up a default route on this router so that any traffic it gets, if it doesn't know where the destination is, it's going to send it out of its serial interface. And then likewise on this router, I'll set up a static default route so that any information that it gets or any destination IP addresses that it does not understand, it would send it out its default route, sending it out of its serial interface. So to do that, it's pretty easy. Just you open up the router. I'm going to get very quickly into global config mode. Okay, so now I'm in global configuration mode. And what I'm going to do is do IP route to the 0.0.0.0 and then subnet mask 0.0.0.0.0 and then a space and then the interface that you want to go out of. And that is going to set up a default route out of the serial interface. Okay, so that's good. And now on the other router, I'll do the same thing. So Control C takes me back to hit enter, takes me back to privileged exec mode. Conf T, which is short for configure terminal, gets me back to global config. And now I can put in a static route, IP space route, to all zeros, space, and same, serial 2/0. So now there are default routes for each one of these routers. Now this, I also configured this second PC off screen. So now this PC should be able to ping the server. Okay? So I'm going to ping 10.0.0.254, and it might take a second, but I should get a response. Okay, there's the response. So there's a successful communication. So now it can communicate across the network. So now that the network is finally set up, we can demonstrate how NAT functions. So, for instance, this server right here is running a web server, right? I can, well, this is a web server. So I'll open up this PC, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this virtual web browser here in Packet Tracer, and I'm going to put in his IP address, 10.0.0.254, right? And as you can see, there's the web server, there's the web page, the default web page, right, for the virtual web server. So we were able to reach it, right? But normally, this guy's on a private network. We're not going to be able to see him if NAT is operating. What we would be doing is we would be putting in the public IP address of the router. So this IP address right here. So right now, if I was to put in, though, 200.10.0.2, you see I don't get anything, right? So I don't get anything when I put in the public IP address of the router, right? If I want to get to the web page, to the web server, I've got to put in the private IP address. Well, that's no good. That's not how it works in the real world. In the real world, this private IP address would be hidden. So now what we're going to do is we're going to set up NAT so that the router translates the private IP address of the web server to the public IP address. So we're going to set up a static NAT situation. Okay, static NAT configuration. So I'll go to the router, and I need to be in global config mode, which I am, and I'm going to say IP NAT inside. Notice I'm in global config here, router config. IP NAT inside the source would be static, right? Is going to be 10.0.0.2 200.254. This is the private address, right? The source, right? And we're going to NAT it to 200.10.0.2. Okay? And there it is. It's done. So IPNAT inside, source, static, the 10 network, 10.0.0.254, so this host will be statically mapped to this public IP address on the outside. So now all we have to do is go into our interfaces and assign it to the interfaces. So I go to the interface, int, serial 2/0, and I say IP NAT outside, hit enter, and then interface fast Ethernet FA 0/0, right? Now I'm in that interface, and I'll say IP NAT, and this is the inside of our network, right? The outside is our serial interface, the inside is the Ethernet interface, hit enter, and so now I have it configured, right? Show run for show running configuration, and you can see now that there is my IP NAT outside on the serial 2.0. On fast Ethernet, there's my IP NAT inside. There is my configuration command to make NAT work, right? And so now what I can do is I can go to this PC, I can open up a web browser, and I can put in the public IP address of the router, which is http://200.10.0.2, and it's translated to the web server, and I get my web page. So now the web server's private IP address has been translated to the public IP address, and the web server's hiding behind the router.